Hello everyone, good afternoon. Look at these lovely blue skies. It's the end of January and today we're going to be starting some Raununculus. Now this is how I start my Raununculus. It doesn't mean it's the go-to guide for how to start Raununculus. There are lots of other growers who start them in different ways and that works well for them. And I'm sure different ways will work well for you. This is just how I do it. It's definitely not a you must do it like this. I'm going to be starting a variety I haven't grown before, which is orange. I will picture somewhere here. And then one I have grown before, which is in my box, and that's the pink, and that's a lovely one that I have, as I say, grown before. I'm only going to be starting 25 of each colour, and that's because I like to succession plant my Raununculus so that you don't have them all flowering in one go. It's better if you've got some flowering, then the next one start flowering, and they will flower again. They cut and come again. So if you have succession sown, the other ones will start growing down while you're cutting your newer ones. So it's quite a handy thing to do. Raununculus are known as being a bit tricky, and I think probably the main reason for that is just getting the moisture content right. If they're too wet, they will rot off and you won't have any viable plants. Or if they're too dry, they just won't sprout at all. Not everybody pre-sprouts them. I know some people put them straight in the garden. I've never had very much success that way, and I think it's because little critters come along and eat them when they're small. So I always start them in a tray. Okay, so I use these really sturdy plastic trays that I use for seeds as well, so I can use them again and again and again. And in fact, I use two trays because they like to be sprouted in the dark, so I put another tray on top once I've done them. You do need to soak your Raununculus because they are really dry and crispy when they arrive. I've done a terrible job opening this package. Okay, so I'm going to show you. This is one of the orange ones. It's actually two. I'll try and get one. Okay. So that is how dry, just try and focus there, dry and crispy out. They're sort of like little octopus. So that's what they look like. And the reason you soak them is they should be nice and plump, and then they will grow. But I'll show you what they look like when they've been soaked. Okay, so these are the same size when they arrived in the packet. Okay, so that's the one that's been soaked. Okay, see how plump his leg, I'm going to call them legs, tentacles, legs. You see how plump they are. And then earlier, a couple of hours ago, he looked like that, dry and crispy and not very good. So that's the difference when you soak them, okay? So I'm going to put that dry one out the way because he's not ready to be planted yet. Now to soak them, what I do is I keep these nets from when I have bulbs. These are probably from daffodils, I should think. And I keep these in the lines of being a sustainable gardener. I keep and reuse, recycle anything that is a plastic. I just don't throw it away unless it really is completely useless. But most companies now are starting to send their bulbs in biodegradable packaging. But these, as I say, are useful. So it's quite important to make sure you've got a label if you've got different colours. I would never put my pink and orange in here together. Because then when I plant them out, I wouldn't know which one's which. So I will put them in separate nets. And what I will do to save a label is I'm going to put the orange ones in an orange net and the pink ones in the yellow net. And that way I will know which ones are which. And there are a couple of different ways you can soak your Raununculus. Probably the most simple way is to put them in a bucket of water and just change the water regularly. Because it's important that the water doesn't get full of bacteria, and I think they like a little bit of oxygen in the water and a little bit of flow. So some people will put a small pump in the water, which I have got a small pump, but I'm really lazy, so I have a really unique way of soaking my corms, which we'll have a look at now. Okay, so this is my fish pond on my patio. It doesn't look marvellous this time of year. It always has a bit of a spruce up in the spring, and also we protect it over the winter by putting insulation and ply around the edge. So in the summer, I promise you, it looks a bit smarter. In fact, I'll try and put a picture in because I'm a little bit embarrassed about what it looks like now. What I will do is I will just put my ranunculus under the flow of water there from the pump. And that keeps the water circulating. It's a very good pond pump, so it keeps the water here very, very clear all year. And I've never had any problems before, so that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so I put a rock on the top of the bag just to stop them disappearing. And you can see they're under a constant trickle with the oxygenated bubbles there. And I'll leave them there until they clump up. And then we'll go on and put them in our trays from there. Okay, so my ranunculus have been soaking now. Got to work this out. See the cogs turning. They've been soaking for about 4 hours. They probably don't need to soak for that long, but I went away, got doing other things and forgot about them. If you're going to leave them in a bucket for that long, oh, you see the sparrow behind me there, over there, distracted. Yeah, if you have them just in a bucket, then you'll need to change the water probably every hour that they're in there. Some people also put the bucket in their bath and just leave the cold tap just sort of dripping in, and that can be enough just to keep the flow and the oxygen going. Okay, so we finished soaking our ranunculus corn. So as I said, I put the orange ones in the orange bag and I put the pink ones in the yellow bag because I haven't got a pink bag. So now we're going to get some trays ready to sprout them in. So most people would use a compost now. They use hopefully a peat-free compost. I don't have any peat-free compost, so I have got this tub here. Okay, so this is really well rotted horse poo. It's probably about 4 years old, but it is quite wet and claggy. So what I'll do, I will add quite a lot of horticultural grit to that. You could use vermiculite. I'm just using horticultural grit because that's what I have. There's nothing special about it. It's just one that I got from the garden centre. And I will mix those together. I won't fill the tray too deeply because I am really bad at potting things on. So I always leave enough room so that when they've sprouted, I can top them up and give them a bit more growing medium. So for now, I will probably half fill the tray if they've got enough room to get some roots going and to sprout. And also that's quite good because their roots then will hopefully come through the bottom of the tray and you can water from underneath, which is quite important. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill this tray up. And I think what I'll do is I'll add a scoop of each at a time. So we'll add a scoop of the well-rotted horse poo. I'm calling it horse poo and not horse manure. If any of you have watched my video, it's not a manure. It doesn't have any of the sort of bedding, either straw and hay and campus, whatever horses are bedded on. So it really is just the poo, which doesn't make such a good compost, but you can use it earlier. The disadvantages are weed seeds, but for ranunculus it shouldn't be too much of a problem because I will be able to tell what are the weeds and what are the ranunculus. And I'll just sort of get that about the same depth all the way along. It's like levelling out a cake to put in the oven. Okay, there we are. So that's ready. And I think we will go and do the orange one first. So there should be 25, but I didn't count them when I put them in the net. Okay, I think what I'll do is I'm just going to tip them all out. Try not to leave any little stragglers in the bag. Okay, right. And I don't know if when you're at school how you learned your stalactites and stalagmites, but stalactites hang down, and that's how we're going to be placing the ranunculus into their growing medium. So pointy bits poking in. I'll try and put you so you can see what I'm doing. So a really little tiny one here, and we're just going to put his feet, we'll call them his feet, shall we? Just poke his feet in. Should we do rows of 4? These are new ranunculus corms, but you can use them again and again. In fact, in the autumn, I used the ones that I dug up from last spring. I still pre-sprout them in exactly the same way. And the good thing about that is the corms get bigger each year. So next year, these corms will be much bigger and they will go on to produce better flowers. Not everyone has the patience to dig them up at the end of the season and store them to reuse them. But I just love the fact that the next year they're bigger and better. So I'll always make the effort to dig them up to reuse them. Okay, and then we've got 2 on the end. Alright, so that's the orange. Now what we do need to do is label those so that we don't muddle the pink up with the orange. So I should just get a pen. Okay, so I'm just going to use a chalk pen, and I'm actually going to label the tray. And the reason I'm doing that is just because I'm going to put another tray on top in a minute. I just don't have to worry about keep on knocking the label when I'm taking it on and off. And this will scratch off of the tray for me to write something on it on another time. So I'm not going to label that they're ranunculus because I know what they are. But I will put the date. See the cogs turning again. Okay, it's the 30th of Jan. Right, so that's the orange one's done. So now we'll do exactly the same with the pink. Gosh, very lazy today. I've got a seat. Because these aren't seeds, I don't have to sieve this or anything or worry about any lumps, which is good. And with regards of we were talking about the water earlier, this is really damp, okay? I will not water these now. They've been soaked, so they've got quite a lot of water on them. They're going into moisture. If I were to water these now, they would just wash away. And the reason I'm adding the grit is to prevent them from happening. So I'm just mixing the grit in. Okay, I'll just level that up. And I think I'm going to label before I put them in this time. Shake things up a little bit. So these are pink. And what do you say? It was the 30th of Jan. Okay. So they were in the yellow bag. This is where I lose them. No, here they are. Okay. Nice and plump. You can see how much plumper they are compared to the ones I showed you earlier. And the good news was that we had 26 of the orange instead of 25. So we got an extra one. It's a bit of a bonus. We have one less here. Okay, all right. And then I'll just do exactly the same thing again. So I'll just place them in rows of 4. Try and get it see. All you can see is my hand coming in front of the camera. I need to do it from this way. Okay, 2, 3. Oh, he's a little tiny one. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I'll stop counting, shall I? You all know how to count to 4. Actually got 2 extras here. I've got 27, which is great. Only I've got to try and find room for them in the tray. I'm just finding gaps for them. Okay. And I didn't do this with the orange, but I might do it. I'm just going to add a little bit grit just on the top, but not too much. Not a thick layer. You don't want to cover them completely, so you want to see them sprout. It will just stop that compost from drying out too quickly. So although I don't want them to be really wet, I also don't want them to dry out because I don't want the opposite problem. So I just go ahead and put a little bit on the orange ones as well. Okay, there we are. So you can still see their heads poking out. Okay, so that's what they look like. So I've got a nice big tray that I'm going to put them in and cover them. Because then when they do start needing water, as I say, they can be watered from underneath. I was a little bit worried that it was going to be too cold in the greenhouse to sprout them, because you need it to be 10 degrees really, and it's been not really being that warm in there, but we've had quite a bit of sun today, so I'm a bit undecided about whether to take these into the house or put them in the greenhouse. I think for now I'm just going to put them in the greenhouse, and then I can make a decision tonight as to whether or not they're going to stay in the greenhouse or come into the house. Okay, there we are, all ready to be put somewhere a little bit warmer to sprout. In the spirit of Blue Peter, here's one that I prepared earlier. So in here, probably less than 25 by the looks of it, because I think they were sprouted in not quite so close together, and I probably did that because I knew they were going to end up being left in the tray for ages. So these were sprouted in the autumn, and they should have gone out in September into low tunnels, but I hadn't built my low tunnels, so instead they are currently occupying a space in my cold frame, and they will be ready to go out as soon as we can stop worrying about frost. They are quite hardy and they will take some frost, but we have been having quite a cold winter, and because I don't buy huge amounts of things, I'd be a little bit devastated if I lost them. So anyway, I will go and put those back in the cold frame, and I'm sure you can join me on a video when I'm planting Raununculus out. Thanks very much for watching my video, and I'll see you next time, hopefully for building those low tunnels. Thanks a lot. Bye.